Hello everybody, welcome back to Reading for Vocabulary. I'm Brian Stewart. We're going over Lesson 5 now. The title for Lesson 5 is Never a Warm Day. Never a warm day? Well, obviously we're not talking about Korea because Korea has many warm days, right? That's good, right? We don't want to be cold all the time. But we're talking about a place that never has a warm day. So we're going to focus on, let's learn about the Arctic. In the Arctic, there's never a warm day. It's always cold. So we're talking about geography that falls under social studies. Well, first of all, let's talk about the Arctic. As you can see, it's very cold in the Arctic, right? Very cold. Never a warm day. It never gets very warm there. It's always covered with snow and ice. And the animals that live there are used to the cold weather in the Arctic. Okay, let's begin with our vocabulary. Whew, frost just jumped on up in there, right? A covering of ice. So when it's really cold outside, right? And you can see the plants or the grass, the trees are covered with a very thin covering of ice. We call that frost. Frost is on the grass. Frost is on the trees. Frost is on your windows sometimes, okay? So it's a thin covering of ice that covers things when it's very cold. Number two, wow, she must be a famous person, right? She looks like a famous singer. Liked by many people. Of course, I just gave you the answer, famous or popular. I said famous before. It's a synonym. It means the same thing. Famous, popular. Many people like that person or thing. It is popular or it is famous. Okay. Number three. Now imagine if you lived here. This is your dog and you live at a home near here. The only way to get to your home is by boat. Wow. That is a faraway place or remote. It is remote. Remote means far away or hard to get to, right? If you live in an island, you can't drive a car there, right? There's no roads. You have to take a boat. It's far away from a city. So it's hard to get to. It's remote. 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 Okay, next word. What is she doing? It's very strange, isn't it? This woman is not common. She's not behaving in a normal, common way. It's not common. If it's not common, it's unusual. She's being very unusual here. Most people don't eat their keyboards. I don't recommend you to eat your keyboard. I don't recommend that as a good practice. So it's very unusual for someone to eat their keyboard. We can also use another word, maybe you've heard before, weird, right? She's being weird, strange, unusual, okay? She's not common. Okay, next one. We have a nice picture here, okay, of a fortune teller. To say that something will happen in the future. Now the word I used to describe her, fortune teller. In Korea, this is kind of a popular thing, especially if you go to the old parks around in Seoul or some of the places. I think you say in Korean, chamjangi, right? Chamjangi saram. I don't know if you say saram. Say chamjangi, right? That is a fortune teller. Someone who says what will happen in the future. Now, what do they do? What do fortune tellers do? What do chamjangi, what do they do? They predict, predict, predict. They say what's going to happen in the future. Is it true? Well, you have to think about that, right? You have to judge for yourself. Can you predict the future? Okay, next one. To give off light. The sun, of course, gives off light. Light bulbs in our house give off light. What are they doing? They are shining. To shine. Shine. not sign, shine, S-H, shh. Don't not be quiet, but shine. To shine means to give off light. To give off light is to shine. Now, shine is an irregular verb, so we say shine, shone, shone. Shine, shone, shone to describe this verb in the past or this action in the past. Okay, number 7. Oh my gosh, I feel sorry for him. He's very, very cold, isn't he? Oh my gosh, he looks like an ice cube. He's extremely cold, very cold. 진짜 좋아요, right? You say that, 진추 or 아주 좋아요, right? Very cold. What do we say? There's another word, frigid. 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 If something is frigid, it's really, really cold. Go into your kitchen, open your freezer, stick your head inside. It's frigid. Don't do that. Your mom will get angry, okay? But it's very cold. Frigid. 8. Something that is completely different. Something that's different. So some people say incinerator is good. Other people say incinerator, no thank you, we don't want it. So you have two sides. You have maybe a pro and a con. You have what other type of sides? You can say opposite sides. These people are on the opposite side, right? Opposite, opposite, opposite. So if an argument, you have some people saying it's good, another person say it's bad, these are opposite sides. Okay. Number 9, a person who visits a place for pleasure. Where is this? This looks like it's in Venice, Italy. You can tell by the stripes on the shirts, that's their trademark. Also, of course, they have the canals that go through the city. Looks like Venice. But if you go to Venice and you go there to look around, wow, it's really cool. People get by on boats. Look at the buildings. Look at the food. Let's experience a new place for pleasure, for entertainment. Then you call that person a tourist. You are a tourist if you go to these places for pleasure. To travel for pleasure, that is a tourist. Okay, next one. I'm sure you have some of these in your room, right? I hope you do, because books are good, right? And a book of stories for children, we can call those what? A book of stories, we just use this word and we use this word and we put them together. And what do we have? We have a story book. So a storybook, of course, is a book of stories. It has a story or several stories in it. It's a storybook. Next one, an area of the earth. So an area of the earth, especially farmers use this to grow crops. What do we call it? Of course, it's land. They need land to grow food. So an area of the earth is land. The area around the North Pole. Now it's maybe a little hard to see, but if you look closely, you can start to recognize some of the shapes here. This is North America here. This is Greenland. Greenland, it's not green, it's white, but we don't say white land, we say Greenland. That's history. Okay, the Greenland. And then, of course, here we have the top of Asia. This is Russia around here. Korea's down over here, right? So what were we looking at? We're looking at the area around the North Pole. What do we call that area? There's a special word for it. We already talked about it. It's called the Arctic. Arctic. We don't really pronounce that C. We don't say Arctic. That's 힘들어, right? We say Arctic, Arctic. We don't really pronounce the C. It's not Arctic, it's Arctic, Arctic. Okay, Arctic. That's the area around the North Pole. It's very cold up there. Next one, in the place of something or somebody. In the place of something or somebody. It's kind of a difficult word. It is instead, instead of, right? So instead of cars, these people are riding bicycles, right? And instead of bicycles, these people are riding cars. So in the place of something or somebody. If you say, not this one, but another thing. Instead of this, then that. Okay, next one. Number 14, what we ride over snow and ice. Now, in the Arctic, it's very cold. You can't really make a road because it snows too much. If you make a road, after a month, you can't see the road anymore because it's covered with snow. So people don't have cars. They use these things to move around. What are they called? They're called sleds, a sled. Maybe you have a sled. When it gets cold in the winter time, you might take a sled to the hill and ride down the sled for fun. A lot of kids do that. They ride a sled over snow. In the Arctic, they use dogs to pull the sled, and that's how they get around. Because cars are not very useful in the Arctic or very cold areas. Sleds are better. The next one, a small round house made of snow. You've probably seen these before, right? And when it's very cold, people will make these out of ice. They'll make them out of snow. It's a little house, very interesting house, right? 재밌어요, right? How would you like to live there? Maybe a little bit cold, but it's actually warm inside. It's warmer inside than outside. What is it called? It's called an igloo. Igloo, right? An igloo is a house made of snow or ice in the Arctic or Antarctic. To sense sounds. Now, of course, we have many organs in our head that we use to know what's going on around us, right? When we use our eyes, we're seeing. When we use our mouth, our tongue, we're tasting. But when we use our ears, what are we doing? Then we are hearing. To hear is to sense sounds. Right now, you are listening to me. You are hearing the noises, the sounds that I'm making. It here is an irregular verb. Hear, heard, heard. So, maybe you heard me yesterday too, as also today. Maybe you're studying very hard, right? So hear, heard, heard. We use heard to describe sensing sounds in the past. Okay, let's go for the reading, the vocabulary exercises. We have several words here. We need to fill in the blanks. Very easy exercise, right? So we have our sentences. We need to use these words to complete each sentence. Let's go over the words. The first one is frost. Frost. Then popular. Popular. Then unusual. Unusual. Next one is shine. Shine. Next one, frigid. Frigid. Frigid, right? Opposite. Opposite. Next one, remote. Remote. And the next one, predict. Predict. Okay, so let's use these words, figure out how we can put them into the sentences. Number one, I got cold. I got cold. I became cold because of the beep weather. What kind of weather makes you cold? What kind of weather makes you cold? Probably this word is what we're looking for, frigid. Very cold. Remember, frigid is very cold. So if the weather is very cold, you become cold. You will get cold. I got cold because of the frigid weather. Number two. Oh, by the way, it's interesting. This says I got cold. That just means you are not warm anymore. But if you add one little word and you put a, I got a cold, it's completely different. That means you got sick. 아파요. I got a cold. Achoo, achoo, right? I got a cold. I became sick because of the frigid weather. But if you don't use a and you just say I got cold, it just means your body was cold. You didn't get sick. You go inside, you get warm, no problem. So it's sometimes in English, it's very important whether you use a or no a, changes the meaning. Okay, just a little note. Number two, after the heavy rain, so after it rained very heavily, after the heavy rain, the sun began to what? So after it rains, the clouds go away, you can see the sun begins to what? Give off light, it begins to shine. Okay, so the sun began to shine after the heavy rain. Number three, the Arctic is a very beep place. Not many people go to the Arctic. It's very difficult to live there. Like I said before, you can't really build a road in the Arctic, so it's hard to get to the Arctic. A place that is hard to get to is remote. The Arctic is a very remote place. It's hard to get to. Number 4, in winter, his car window was covered with what? I talked about this when we talked about this word. When it's really cold outside, there will be a covering of ice on plants, on grass, on your windows. What do we call that ice? We call that ice frost. So in winter, his car window was covered with frost. Okay, number 5. The beep of hot is cold. Interesting. Hot and cold, 반대로, right? They are what? They are opposites. So the opposite of hot is cold, right? The opposite of happy is sad, right? The opposite of tall is short, okay? So the opposite of A is B, right? That's a good thing. Of course, A and B are opposites, 반대로, okay? Number 6, I can't beep the result of the match. The result of the match. Match here means like game or contest. For example, a soccer match, right? Do you know who will win? Sometimes it's hard to tell. It's very difficult to know the future. So I can't, when you know the future, you probably don't know the future. Of course, it's very difficult to know the future. It's very difficult to know who will win the match, which team will win. So it's difficult to predict. I can't predict the result of the match. I don't know. I can't tell the future. Okay. I'm not a chamjangi. Right? Okay, next one. Number 7. He is a very beep singer in Korea. So we're looking for something that has to do with singer or entertainers or actors. Of course, if a singer is to be successful, many people have to like that person. So if we're talking about somebody who is, many people like them, he is a very what? He's a very popular singer in Korea. And number 8, she is a girl with what ability? She is a girl with some type of ability. The only word left, of course, but also we're looking for something that's makes her unique, makes her different from other people. She's a girl with unusual ability. Of course, people with unusual ability, could be a good thing. Somebody who sings very well, that's not common. That's unusual. Somebody who has a very good voice. So somebody who has an unusual talent, they can become famous as an entertainer or in many other fields, right? If you have an unusual ability to do math in your head, you can become a scientist or a teacher or a mathematician, right? So if you have an unusual ability, sometimes that's very good. It's not common. You should develop that ability. Okay, anyway, that wraps it up with the vocabulary. Let's take a short break now, and we'll take a look at the reading section in a few minutes.